Kathleen, it's really good to spend some time with you this afternoon, and we're of course sitting next to the memorial quilt which also remembers David, and we want to talk about David but also you, and in terms of your life. And could you give us a sense of who you were ahead of actually meeting David for the first time?
Well, before I met David, I originally came from Donegal, and I had a very happy childhood, living beside the sea. Great. And knew very little about the Troubles, and came up here and started to work. I was a nurse, and eventually was lucky enough to meet David, and didn't go home as often then as I used to. But we ended up getting engaged, and then we got married, and we were very, very happy. And after a year, Heather came along, and that was the icing on the cake. We were just, and David was on cloud nine. Oh, cloud nine. The day he came in to see her in hospital, I swear he was just walking on air. He was devoted to her, and so was I, but it just, you know what men are like and their daughters. And then after that, I left nursing to sort of be with Heather, and we eventually moved house then to be nearer David's mum and dad, and we were there about 6 months when the tragedy happened, just out of the blue, and nothing prepares you for the devastation you're left with, and it's just so sudden. Just everything stops, you know, your life just changes completely, from being so happy to being left in bits, really, in shreds.
David served in the RUCGC, isn't that right?
He did.
And was that something he always had a passion that he wanted to go into the police, or how did he?
I think he did. I think from when he was a young fella, I think he always had that passion that he would like to join, you know. And he did, and he was proud to be part of the RUC. And he was a popular policeman, you know, popular with the people around the community and popular with his colleagues as well, you know, because like at the wake, when people came from all around and all denominations, what people said about him was lovely, and I was so proud, and still am proud to have been his wife. You know, he was a gentleman, and everybody said that, the gentle giant. He was tall and a great fella, would harm nobody.
Yeah.
No matter who they were, he had time for everybody. And he liked doing a wee bit of farming too.
That's interesting to say.
Had a wee bit of an interest in that too. And he was a great father to Heather. Like, I mean, she lost so much when he was murdered. But she's grown up into a great girl. Yeah. And he would be so proud of her. So proud, as I am.
And Kathleen, at that point as well, when, you know, there was a lot of violence within your sort of region of Northern Ireland, were you very fearful when David would have gone out on duty, or how were you feeling as a young woman at that time? Did you have a sense this could happen, or was it just that you almost felt it wasn't going to come to our door? How did you feel?
On the back of your mind, I suppose it was always there, and you were always checking onto the car. And I remember being out with David in the car, and this car seemed to be following us for a bit, and he pulled in, and I says, why are you, or he went he pulled in another road, and I says, why did you do that? And he says, no, that car was just following us there, and I just thought I'd, you know, to see would it keep following, but right enough, thank goodness it went on. But you always did have that fear, but at the same time, I think he just thought it'll not happen to us, or you had to sort of think like that, you know, or it would have consumed you completely. So I thought, no, it'll not happen to us. But it did.
And Kathleen, when the events of that fateful day did happen, can you share with us how life was in the immediate days and weeks thereafter, and then as the months went forward? Because you hear other people speak of the darkness that can come over life at that time, and just if you give a sense of your experience.
Oh, there was a darkness. You just took one day at a time, and if I tried to look any further, there was a darkness, and only for friends and family and neighbours, and Heather. Like, I think because of Heather, I knew I had to keep going. And because I used to get up in the morning, I just thought another day without David, and then I would think on Heather. I thought, well, I have to keep going here, But and you sort of query yourself as a mother, will I be able to do the best for her, because I knew I wasn't the woman I used to be, and I was...
There was a little bit of the light went out on you as well that day.
Oh, the light went out completely. The light went out completely. But it's amazing what people can do, and my faith as well, I think, kept me going. I fell a bit behind because I was so cross at the man above for letting this happen, and I didn't go to church for a long time, and I was just so cross with him, but at the back of it all, I knew he was still there with me, But...
and we're always taught that God wants us almost to wrestle with him and to challenge him as well at times. That's obviously Scripture says. So you were going through very human emotions around what all had happened.
Yeah, I just couldn't understand why this was allowed to happen, But, and even that night, like, when I ran out, I could feel evil. There was a darkness, there was the smoke, and everything seemed to be... It was at night, but there was this just a feeling of evil. I could feel evil in the air that night. I really could.
And of course you're right, it was, because what happened was...
I could feel it.
It was palpable, the feeling.
It was palpable, yeah, definitely. But,
and I guess then, look, support structures were limited on the ground at that point as well. You probably wouldn't have had a great deal of access to counselling or anything of that nature, or when did that come? Or
well,
any of those
no,
supports?
I must admit, the counsellor, William, and he was brilliant. Nice. He landed, was it the next day? Or no, maybe when all was over. Oh, I can't remember. Very soon anyway, he came, and it was great. I knew he was there. He was like an anchor in a sense. That I could talk to him and I could tell him things that I would tell nobody else.
And was that through the police support?
It was,
That's very positive to hear that there was that experience.
It was, no, he was there at that time. And I could tell him, I mean, I would have been put on, the white coats would have been coming for me if I'd have told anybody else what I told him. Things, really bizarre things. And at a time, I just thought David will be back. He'll really be back because he wouldn't leave me in this situation.
Your thoughts were just racing.
Just mad.
Yeah.
But I think your mind can't take it all in, so it gives you them wee things to help you maybe. But as time went on, well, I remember William saying, there was people calling at the house all the time, and it was great to see them. There people came from years back, that I had worked with, and people that I would never have expected to come. And I says, if I could get back to normal, maybe we'll, But he says, Kathleen, you're never going to get back to normal.
It's a new normal of sorts.
Things are going to be a completely different.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that day.
Yeah.
I thought, that's an awful thing to say to me. I just couldn't take it in, but that was right. That was right.
And Kathleen, we've all said this, that I suppose the wider community focuses upon an anniversary as a time maybe to show its deepest concern for a victim survivor, but of course there's so many dates throughout the year when you are going to be thinking very pertinently about David and your family of that time, and whether it's Father's Day or whether it's Christmas
definitely.
or a child's birthday or the anniversary of when you first met. All those different dates are must be etched within your mind.
They're still there and they'll never leave, and I don't want them to leave. And no, they're still there. And I know people, it's been how many years? 36 is it now? And there's people now around me, they don't know anything at all about David, and there's young people growing up and they don't know. And I'm just, they don't know what's behind me, But no, I'll never get over that. That pain will always be in my heart. And I know I have married again to a great
Really
man.
good man.
Yes,
Yeah.
and he's been able to accept me the way I am.
Yes.
God help him. But
you've met two good men in your life.
I have. I've been very,
Yeah.
very fortunate to have met two good men.
Yeah.
But, just because I'm married again doesn't mean that I'll forget about David. I never will. And Andy's so
And Andy
gracious
understands that, and he
good
realises.
that he's able to take that, and it takes a good man.
Special man.
To do that.
Absolutely.
It does.
And, I just want to peel back as well at that time, the different roles that you would have had to perform right throughout those years, without having David at your side. Things that you probably never expected you would have to do as a woman. Can you think back to any of the roles that you would have thought yourself, I so wish I had David or Neil here to be assisting with this?
Yeah, even Heather's first day at school, I just thought, he should be here to see this, and all, even different wee things, even things she'll say, wee funny things, and no, you had to be there, and you had to try to be strong, and her even starting playgroup and going to school, and although I must say David's colleagues were wonderful. Heather's first day at school, David, the sergeant, and another friend of David's were at the school in the car sitting when we went up.
Okay.
And
that's a wonderful experience.
I can't, and it does reflect on David as to what they thought of him. They were so good.
That's the police family operating as
that
it should.
Is it. They were brilliant. They were brilliant. And David's own family, even since I've married again, they've been very good. They've been very good. And but there's different times, different things. Heather she got engaged, she got married, and he wasn't there. But
walking her down the aisle, very poignant thing.
Yeah, well, that day I walked her, and Andy was on the other side. Yeah. But David's sister and cousins, they have been so supportive, and they were there. Yeah, they were there.
You're still one family unit.
We are all still one family unit. Yeah, we are. And David's picture's still up in the house, and even I've got two other girls, but they know all about him, and he's still part of our family. Yeah. And but I did find it hard times just being the only one, even things like taking out the rubbish. A man typically, physical things, I'm thinking, or car trouble or anything of that nature. That's right, I had to go running to somebody else. Yeah. Or the heating of it went off or something, even things like that. Or even reprimanding Heather if she was doing something.
You had to be the disciplinarian.
I thought, well, I have to be really strong here, because if she sees I'm weak, she's going to play on it. So I felt I really maybe had to be maybe stricter, in a sense. Not that I really was, but I did my best. And she was a good child, she was. And but and our. In the family too, I had an aunt who was murdered as well, and some people think maybe that it just happens once in a family, but it happens.
And that was the Enniskillen bomb.
That was the Enniskillen bomb, and Aunt Alberta always had a place for young children or that had lost their parents. Yes. And I think if she had a thought that her niece, lost her husband and had to bring Heather up on her own, she would have, you know, it would have been bad, like she would have felt
Difficult
it.
for her to deal with that too.
So, no, life hasn't been easy, but I have
But
great friends.
you've hope now, and
I
you've
do.
Heather and her life and how it's developed, and
Yeah,
you know,
and she's a great girl. She's from what she's come through. She's not a bigoted girl or a bitter girl. You know, she's an all-round girl, and she can, I don't know, she sees the bigger picture times. You know, I'm very proud of her.
She hasn't been defined by what has happened within the family.
No, she wants, you know, no, she doesn't.
To live her life as she
to
wants
live
to live
her
her
life. But she's proud of who she is and proud of her father.
Yeah.
But, you know, she takes people as she finds them.
Yeah.
And then, you know, no, she's very good. I'm very proud of her. So.
And Kathleen, just to finish, I mean, I suppose this project, which is looking at really women's role within the Troubles, and why we felt it was very important to do this is because often the Troubles is looked through a very masculine lens, because not in predominantly, but you know, a large percentage of obviously those who served in the security forces were male, and others whom were involved in the tour groupings typically came from a male population, but it's the women within all of that situation who in many ways were the anchor, you know, keeping the family together and also the communities and where they resided. And, you know, have you ever thought about that, just how special you and others were over that period to actually keep this all together against that situation that you were presented with?
I suppose it is a big responsibility in a way, how we live our lives and how we come across to other people. Maybe we did have to be strong, and we weren't. There was times people said to me, "Oh, I don't know, you're so strong," you know. But when the door closes and they go out, I'm back to being on my own and with Heather, and you have to be strong. Not that I don't know where my strength came from times, but it wasn't always there. You know, there was times when I had really down days and down times.
And you really had to dig deep.
And I had to dig deep to keep going. And I wanted Heather to, you know, to go to Girls' Brigade and to go to these things and, you know, even those services and things like that. But I wanted her to get what David would have wanted for her. I wanted her to have as much as anybody else, you know. So you did have to dig deep. And
so that terrorism that was inflicted that day, Kathleen, way I suppose we would frame it as the domino effects never really stop, do they, in terms of the repercussions of it?
No, it doesn't stop. And it ripples out. It ripples out. And like Heather has a son now, and he's called David. And I'm doing this partly for him too, for him to understand maybe what happened. And he'll have that to live with too. And I think in the community, I wanted to be, I was proud to be David's wife, that I had been David's wife, but I wanted to think that he would be proud of me for maybe going on and trying my best and doing my best, you know.
And Kathleen, look, from anything I've heard you ever speak of David, he would be really pleased that you have met another good man in Andy, and that you are, you know, having some quality of life, because you've said that term before, that maybe it wasn't a life for a period of years, it was an existence.
Oh, from day to day, it was just an existence. And then I used to look at Heather and I thought, this is so unfair on her, you know, that I'm just, maybe just existing, you know. But, and I remember, it was 6 or 7 or 8 years after David, Andy appeared, and he asked me out one night, and I thought, oh my goodness, that's nearly killed me. And I thought, No, and a friend of David's, they happened to call that evening, and I was sitting as David's best man, or our best man at the wedding, and I just ended up in tears, and he says, "What's wrong with you?" Oh, guys, his aunt has asked me out. Well, he says, "I'm so glad." He says, "You cannot live your life like this. It's not," and David would not want you living your life like this. But I just felt that I was being, you know,
almost disloyal.
Disloyal to him.
Yeah.
Disloyal to him.
Yeah.
But in my own heart, I know he would want us to go on.
Yes.
And be happy. And funny, even the morning of the wedding, you know, I could feel David. And that people will think I'm mad. But I just felt him saying, "You're doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing." And it did. It gave me, you know, the will to keep going. And I knew I was doing the right thing, but you still feel a bit guilty.
Yeah.
Guilty.
Because this culture that we live in sometimes in Northern Ireland is incredibly judgmental of everybody.
Oh, I know.
And, but, you know, you cannot live life in that way on others' judgments, can you?
And people maybe think, "Oh, there's her, she's married again, getting on with her life. You know, she probably forgot all about David now." But that, far from the truth. Never.
And as you say, the next person that you marry has to be such a special person to embody all of that.
Definitely. It has to be a very special man to take on somebody like me. Because there's always anniversaries, there's birthdays, there's, you know, and there's something will come up on the TV maybe, and it just brings something back. And, you know, no, we're not the usual run-of-the-mill people at all.
But it works. It works.
But no, he's a rock. He's a rock. He's my rock.